Hey guys, as promised, here is the little leaf that goes with the flower that I've attached to so many things. I'm calling it the Whoville because it's a little funky, and I think you guys will have a great time learning how to knit this. For a supply list and more information, visit the website or the description below. And I want to thank Shanti and Carol from Promise Learning and Shanti Styled Me for covering the cost of closed captioning. Let's begin. Alright, we'll start with securing the yarn to the anchor peg, and then we're going to do a drawstring, we're going to E-wrap cast on 10 pegs. Well, you know I use the drawstring cast on to death, so I say it out of habit. Now let's turn, and we're going to U-wrap knit one row in order to finish this cast on. Try to keep your yarn a bit tight as you do this cast on, and let me explain a U-wrap. To do this, you're going to half wrap your peg and knit off, and again we're going to half wrap and knit off, and we're going to do that for all 10 pegs. Row 1 is really easy. All you're going to do is knit the row just like you did with the cast on. You're gonna half wrap the peg and knit off, and keep doing that all the way to the end of the row. Row 2 is going to be a bit tricky, so I need you to pay attention. Alright? Not difficult, just tricky. But we're gonna start with 2 simple knit stitches. So first knit peg 1 and then peg 2, and then we're going to do the little tips of the leaf. So we're going to knit off using one of these locking stitch markers is what it's called, but you can use a safety pin or a clip. And then we're going to E-wrap and knit off on that same peg on this particular one 9 times. So once you've done that 9 times on the same peg, you're going to then take that loop and move it to the next peg. And I need you to tighten that working yarn nice and knit off. And then you're going to go back to that first loop and you're going to remount it on that peg, which is like peg number 3. And the reason I never pull out the stitch marker is for situations like that one. Alright, then you take your stitch marker off, and you don't need to do this, but I do, just makes it easier, is I attach it to that tip of my leaf. And now we're going to go to the next one. And again, like last time, you're going to take another one of your locking stitch markers, or whatever you're using in its place, and you're going to knit off that first one. And then you're going to come back, and in this particular case I'm going to knit this peg 11 times because it's actually the very middle top tip, and I want it to be longer than the other ones, but it doesn't matter. You can make this one 9 just like you did before. And then again you're going to tighten it, and if it's easier you can remount that first loop first before you knit off. That's okay. And then just make sure you tighten right here. Okay, promise me it looks that you're going to do this because it makes it look a lot better. And then I am going to attach my locking stitch marker. I'm going to knit off, and then I'm going to do the third tip. So with my stitch marker again, I knit off that first loop, and then I'm going to come back and do 9 on this one peg. And keep going until you get 9. You can do less if you want a smaller, or more if you want your tips to be bigger. And again, I put it on the next peg, knit off, and remount that first loop. And I attach my stitch marker to that tip, and then I'm going to knit 2 pegs, and that is the end of this row. Now row 3 is similar but not alike to row 2. we're going to start off by knitting 3 pegs. So 1, 2, and here goes my third one. And now peg number 4, we're going to E-wrap 7 times and get your stitch marker, knit off the first one, and then you're going to knit that peg 7 times over. Now again, you can do more or less depending on what you want, how you want your leaf to look. You're going to knit off and then remount that first loop. Try to make sure that it's not twisted. Okay, that can happen sometimes, and I'm going to put my stitch marker back on my tip and go to my next one. Now this is why I said that it's similar but not alike. We're only going to do this 2 times on this row. So once you've done your second tip and you move that one over and you go ahead and you're going to knit off like before, and please remember to tighten that loop, remount your stitch or your loop, and again I put my stitch marker on my tip, and now I'm going to knit the rest of the row, which in this case is 3 more pegs. So knit your 3 pegs and you're finished with row 3. Now remove the yarn from the anchor peg, and you could have done this a few rows back, but I feel more secure keeping it on. And then just take your working yarn, you're going to lay it over the pegs past 2 and cut your excess yarn. And now we're going to do a drawstring cast on. So just feed from the bottom your working yarn over the top from the bottom up. And you guys know I meant to say cast off, sorry about that. Again, feed your working yarn through every one of your 10 pegs, and then you can go back to the beginning and remove all the loops off the loom. So I do want to forewarn you at this point that the little leaf looks really awkward, and it's a little, I don't know, weird to try to shape it, but let's walk this through step by step. So here's your cast on string, and you need to tighten it. So you're going to go to the other end and you're going to grab the first corner and pull on it, and you're just going to keep pulling those loose loops, and you can see how it moves and it shows you where the next one is. As you pull, it'll show you where the next loose one is, the next one that you have to pull. And they're really long, and it's kind of easy to see, but if you've not done this before, if you haven't tightened a cast on, it can be a little strange to do. As long as you don't worry about it, it seems to go better. When you start getting concerned that it's just really awkward to do, then it gets worse. So just pull on these really long loose loops until you get to the very end, and then you'll see that that last loop shows you where the other end is, which is right here. If you left a knot when you tied this to the anchor peg, you can tell the cast on from the cast off. Alright, so now it's time to tighten the cast on, and that one is super easy. Pull on the corner loop and then just pull the string and it will tighten. See, that one's way easier to straighten out than the cast on. Then it's time to stretch the tips of the leaf and start defining the shape. So just pull on it until you feel that it looks well, and then it's time to sew the 2 ends. So I'm using a blunt metal needle because I like it way better than the plastic one that comes with the set. It's just easier to deal with. It doesn't bend. It's just good, and it's really cheap. You guys should think about it. And once you've sewn those 2 little edges of your leaf, you can go ahead and remove your stitch markers or whatever you used, your safety pins or clips, whatever you used, remove it so that you can continue to shape this leaf in whatever way you want it to look. And then you're good. Now you have a cool, funky little leaf, and you can attach it to whatever you want. In my particular case, I'm attaching it to this little flower. And if you want this pattern, there will be a link in the description as well as on the website post. Your Whoville leaf is done. Don't forget to like, comment, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Bye!